Welcome to Getting Ghosted. This is an Intuitive Soul Collective podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Horner. Okay, everyone, we are back. I have had such an interesting, I want to say like week and a half. I have definitely been having some expanded experiences. So something that came up kind of as a spontaneous episode is how much telepathic connection is going on right now. So I know that we had talked about this coming up previously. Like this came up in our 2025 energy guide that I put out last year. It's come up in readings. It's come up in videos that I've made, previous podcast episodes, all this type of stuff where the guides were saying, hey, like, you know, coming into 2026 and especially into 2027, we're going to see increased telepathy. People will have growing clairsentience. It's going to be a lot. For whatever reason, I didn't think that I was included in the telepathic part because I've already had those experiences. So I was kind of like, I mean, I've had this happen before. My son and I have a lot of telepathy. I have certain, friends, and I've definitely had my experiences throughout the years with this. And even when I was a kid, I would pick up on things that other people were thinking. Although back then I would say it was much more one way, where it was like I was picking up on what they were thinking, but they weren't able to hear what I was thinking, or my reactions or responses. And so it's been interesting. Like this last week, I've had really, really crystal clear two-way telepathic connection again. And like I said, this has happened to me before. It tends to happen in spurts. And I think a lot of people need to understand it happens because of frequency. And it is an important part of our evolution into the future. And it's an important part of syncing up with the people that you're meant to be synced up with on the planet. And so when we're having telepathic communications with people, it's not just a spontaneous thing, though it can kind of happen, as my guides have said before, due to proximity. It's more so meant to connect you with people who are in the same frequency and are aligned to your higher purpose. So I did call them in because I want them to come in and talk a little bit more about this. I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about it today. I don't want to get into too many of my personal details and things that have been going on for me. But it's just been a lot. And they've been actually, they've always been here to help me when I go through different experiences. Like I said, like I have gone through spurts of having this really clear, two-way telepathic connection before. And it's very different from picking up on spirit. So, and hearing spirit telepathically, it feels very different. The energy is very different. And so they're going to come in and they're going to talk a little bit more about what they want you to understand and what can help us most right now, because they keep showing me like, they're like, Eric's over here. He's like, it's going to be a lot and we want people to be prepared. So he's over here clapping. He's like, yeah, you did it. And I was like, did what? And he goes, you let the cat out of the bag. You're finally talking about it. And I was like, well, yeah, because telepathy is a little more taboo. I think people love to think about telepathy in terms of the romantic relationship where they're like, oh, we finish each other's thoughts. Like, it's like, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about really random telepathic communications and things like that. And he said, he's like, right on, man. And he did like his little pointer finger thing. And he said, so with telepathic connection, it can happen between humans and animals. It can happen between humans and other creatures. It can happen between humans and each other. And it can happen between humans and spirit, or, different beings of, he's showing like astral, higher vibrations. And he said, so essentially telepathy is when you're able to talk to people without having to use, your physical mouth and to speak or ears to hear. And you can do it when you're not even like in proximity to people. And he said, now he wants to go through kind of, Eric loves to break it down. He loves the mechanics. Loves it. So he's going to come in and he's going to give us a little bit more of that. I also see Sam kind of creeping in from the side. He's like way off. Eric's here in my chair and Sam's way off in the distance and just kind of like inching forward. Like he started off, like he just came in a door on the side, like way like 50 feet away, and he's kind of just like sliding in. That was funny. But, I swear they almost feel to me like they're like younger brothers or something. So anyways, so Eric's like, all right, come on, just pull up a chair. And so he just keeps saying, he's like, now getting back down to business. And I'm hearing the song, taking care of business. So what he's saying is he's like, so Allie, so you have been having more telepathic experiences with other people where you're aware that they're talking to you and they're aware that you're talking to them. But what's been happening for me is I've been going in and out of different time periods. So for example, and I've had this happen before throughout my life, and especially over the last 10 years, but it's happened to me, like I have experiences I remember in childhood of doing this. I just didn't understand what I was doing at the time, right? I didn't have anyone no one was explaining anything like this to me because they didn't know any better either. And so what essentially happened is I was talking with someone. I went into a really deep meditation. I saw myself talking with someone, and they were asking me, "Are you an angel?" Like they didn't understand either that humans can almost like astral project. And this person kept saying, "Well, I can't see you, but I can hear you and I can feel you here." And they kept asking, "Are you an angel?" And I essentially did like kind of like an energy work thing with them while I was talking with them. And then I saw myself talking to them. It's really weird because I saw myself talking to them like 40 years earlier or 30 years earlier. So when they were in their like late 20s, maybe early 30s. And it was as though I had clicked into their energy and saw exactly what they looked like, where they lived, etc. Like I didn't know addresses and stuff, but I was in their kitchen with them. And I was telling them everything's going to be okay. I know how your future turns out and everything is going to be great. You're going to have a family. You're going to have kids. Like you're going to be, I don't want to give too much away, but I essentially was like, listen, like I know of your career later and it's going to be okay. And even back then they had asked me, "Are you an angel? I don't understand. Who are you?" And, but they were feeling relief from me being there. And then I zoomed back in the present, was like, I'm in this deep meditation. So I'm like, what's going on here? And I had done this before, but it's like my conscious mind doesn't always catch up to what my spirit, we all have our own spirit, our own inner spirit, our higher self. It was like, it takes our conscious mind like a moment to catch up to what's going on. Right. And so I had these experiences before, and I would jump in and out of different time periods. And so when I would travel back and forth, I would always ask, what year is it? And I would also try to look in a mirror to see, am I myself or am I seeing through someone else's eyes? And this is something I do in dreams as well. Don't believe all the crap about don't ask for the time in dreams. I don't know where this shit started, but I have never ended up with anything negative happening because of that. I've never had sleep paralysis issues because of it. Like, you don't have to worry about things like that. I do this solely so that I can understand, like, where am I in time and space, what location, who's around me, and what's going on, and why is this happening? And so I wanted to kind of like bring this forward just because over the last week, I've had quite a few experiences of this, and I recognized it right away because I've gone through spurts where I'm doing this before. And there's also like an energetic healing or energy work component that happens to it when we're in that state of consciousness. So as I was talking with my guides, I also got a friend of mine to tune in for me as well, just because when it comes to personal experiences, I like to have some outside perspective. I know our personal and emotional bias can jump in there and distort things as well as our own feelings. So I like to double check with someone outside of myself who I trust. And I really recommend that. A lot of psychics and mediums I know actually do that pretty regularly, just because they know, like, can we read for ourselves? Absolutely. But can our stuff get in there and distort things or trip us up, or, can our conscious mind get in there and kind of F with things a little bit, or maybe change our interpretation a little bit? Yes. So I'm always, when it comes to things that are happening for me or about me, I like to run it by someone unless I feel really set in it. So I sat down, I journaled everything out, and this is what I recommend people do when they start to have these experiences. Write everything down in a journal. And make sure that you're just like documenting what's going on, right? How, like, go through your five senses. What did you see, hear, feel, sense, write it down word for word. You don't have to inflate it, just facts, right? Roll through it, and then don't try to make it mean anything. Don't try to understand it right away. Just record, right? And so I just told her, I said, I had this experience yesterday. Can you pick up anything from my guides about it that I need to understand, or anything else I need to understand? And she validated literally everything. And I didn't give her any background info, didn't tell her what had happened. And for her, it was a good exercise because she was like, oh, wow, I really am psychic. And I was like, yeah, girl, You are a channel. And so we all need that little boost too. So it was like practice for her and confirmation and validation for me. And so essentially my guides came in and they said, when humans are shifting frequencies, so due to being in deeper meditations, sometimes it can happen because of our emotional state, or especially if we have a really big emotional upset and we have a surrender moment where we're like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Everything is, I'm in this horrendous like emotional space. Sometimes that's when people have this almost transcendental awareness of angels or other humans who are there to help them in astral or whatever it is. When we're like crying out for help, sometimes that's when something can happen. And he's showing me, or between waking and sleep. And I was like, yes, that's when I have a lot of these traveling experiences, is almost like lucid dream states. And so essentially, he keeps showing me and he's saying, so the frequency changes, right? So, your mind and your consciousness exists in many different frequencies, but as humans, you're usually more aware of one frequency or one dimension than the other, and that's the third dimension, right? But a lot of us are expanding our consciousness to exist outside of just the time and space dimension. We are going beyond that, but our physical bodies can't always go with us, right? That's why when we die, we can't take the body with. Our consciousness, though, doesn't change, but it becomes more open, expanded, aware of not just itself, but how it is everything and nothing all at the same time. And so we can have these bigger expanded experiences in the physical body, but our body doesn't go with us, at least not at this point in time. And he goes, righto. And so what he keeps saying is, what's going to happen for more and more people is they're going to have more and more of these telepathic experiences where they begin to connect with people. So often it will be people that they know or people that they already have a connection to, but it's also going to be people that they wouldn't know that they're supposed to know. And so he said, it's kind of like invisible string theory. It's like you're all connected through cords of light, and that's the higher consciousness. So you essentially all have like, a larger collective oversoul in a sense, but you're here for individual expressions and you're all here for collective purpose. And so in order for the universe to work through the evolutionary change that's happening, what is going to begin to happen is that a lot of humans are going to have more transcendental meditation experiences spontaneously. As they begin to do these things, they're going to have more and more telepathic connection to themselves in and out of time, where he's showing so the experience of actually seeing your own future and communicating with your future or past selves. And then in addition, he's saying you'll be able to communicate more and more with people, and especially children, in and out of different time frames. So where you can jump back and forth to different years and different timelines. He said, it's not timelines though. There is this one timeline. And I've said this to people before, like, don't fixate on this timeline, that timeline. No, like when they talk about timelines, when spirit talks about them, it talks about past, present. They're talking about past, present, and future. They're not talking about alternate realities. And they're like, that stuff is just going to trip you guys up. The reality you're in is the one you're in. just be there. There is no slipping timelines. And he goes, that's human brains trained to make sense or trying to kind of escape the reality that they're in, when really the best way to work with the reality you're in is to begin to shift your internal state so that you start to look at what the reality you're in differently. The reality doesn't change, but how you see it and the opportunities you see and how you respond to them or react to them changes, and how you think about things changes. Now he's showing me with telepathy, he said this can be actually really useful because sometimes some of you guys need to have a little bit more of a telepathic connection that helps you feel like you're connected to people outside of yourselves. Like he goes, you guys get in your own heads. You're kind of mixed up in your own minds a lot, and it can get really lonely in there. And then you start to feel very isolated. So sometimes having a deeper experience where you are suddenly telepathically, having a two-way connection with someone where they're talking back and then they can confirm that for you, sometimes that can make you feel a little bit more motivated to start to create some internal and external changes. And it begins when you start to let go of who you think you are. And the best way to let go of who you think you have to be and who you think you are is actually to do things like meditating, because then you become he's showing like meditation allowing you a moment of maybe reprieve or relief from the physical form. So he's like, you're not going to be like out of your body where you're like dead, but you're also going to feel a little bit less like finite, a little bit less like this is all I am and this is all I'll ever be, right? Is this body at this time. And he said you detach from what we call your ego a little bit more. And the ego is like essentially the small scared self, but it's really just supposed to keep you connected and protected. But sometimes it does that job a little too strictly, where it actually might hold you back from opportunities because it sees opportunities as risks. And so it sees connection as a risk. It sees anything that might cause change or even a little bit of discomfort as too risky, as too much. So sometimes it does a little bit too much. And so it's really important. He keeps saying that you guys are kind of elevating and us, moving out of that, expanding beyond just what you think you're allowed to be, your sense of identity. Meditation helps with that, but sometimes people are able to access that state by going on a long run, getting into a flow state painting or drawing. Sometimes they're able to get into that from swimming, from laughing, from listening to a podcast or watching a movie that opens their mind to something new. Sometimes it's from a conversation. Sometimes it's from going to a concert and listening to, meditation that just like teleports them out of the, or puts them in the present moment so much more deeply, where they're really accessing their feelings. And he said sometimes it's from grief. Sometimes it's from really intense fear that just snaps you into an awakening. And so he said sometimes it can be from something blissful. And he's talking about mushrooms. He's like, sometimes it's a psychedelic experience, but he said, but you don't need to have that in order to access this. Sometimes it's from writing. Sometimes he's just like, and on and on and on and on and on. He said, and sometimes unfortunately it's from losing someone, and he said, though we in spirit say you never really ever lose anyone. Like we don't actually leave. We're here. We're in our, our heaven includes you, and it's a multidimensional heaven type of space. Now he keeps showing me as well. He said, so telepathy can help you remember a truth about yourselves, which is that you're not actually separate from anyone else. In a sense, like you do have a telepathic, humanistic connection to everything, everyone, everywhere, everyone. And so essentially, when you guys begin to use your telepathic connection, not only can you connect with spirit, you can connect with other humans, animals, plants as well. And he goes, it really shouldn't be super weird, because think about how many people are coming out and they're like, oh yeah, I'm an animal communicator. And actually for our 2026 in Aquarius updated energy guide and themes that we're going to see of the future, animal communication came up because I was like, it's going to get really big this year and going into 2027. And so he keeps saying that's exactly it, because animals are also a higher frequency, and plants are probably the highest vibration you can find in the 3D world. So as people begin to connect with them, they're going to have other senses open. Now, he keeps saying as well, he said, now people are going to be a little bit wigged out, because what starts to happen is, so like when I was connecting with this person earlier, last week, when they were saying, are you an angel? I was like, no, I'm a human. I'm a girl, or I'm a woman. And they were like, what? Like, wait, you're alive? Wait, what's going on? That can kind of weird people out a little bit, because they're like, wait a minute, is this like a weird form of like, are you peeking in on me? Like, and so he keeps saying, so we want you guys to understand that's not how telepathy works. So that's actually too low of a vibration for telepathy to work in, where someone is jumping in and doing something with intent to harm or intent to project onto someone in a negative way, or control them. That is actually not a frequency that telepathy can operate in. So he goes, we don't want you to be scared. And he said, again, telepathy is a little bit of a slightly higher dimensional capability. It doesn't really operate in those lower frequencies of control, drama, manipulation, coercion, dominance. He is like, so we don't want you guys to get scared or worried. Okay. And he said, and so for Allie, something that's happened for her is she only has telepathic connection with other humans when they are able and open to that higher frequency where she can reach them as well. And she needs to be in it too. And he said, it's very important that you guys understand that, because we don't want you to get worried about it. And he said, now when you are practicing with someone, and we will do some classes on this, they have been nudging me because they're like, hey, like you have experience, we can teach through you. I always trust them to teach through me as well, but they want to get some groups together to practice so that we can feel the difference between connecting with another human and connecting with spirit. Because again, like I said, this person was asking me, wait, are you an angel? Because they had never experienced this before. And it is confusing at first. It is weird. Like the first couple of times it happened to me when I was younger, I was like, I don't understand, like, because I can feel and sense this person, even see almost like things about them in my third eye or in imprint in the room. But I was kind of confused because I was like, wait, are they a ghost? Are they an angel? Or are they alive? And then I realized like they felt really different. They felt more 3D. There was more emotion and static in their energy. And Erik said, that's exactly it. So when you're connecting to humans, and he said, this is what most people think hauntings are, as humans. And he's like, they're picking up on other humans. It's not angels or spirits doing that. It's humans. And he goes, we're not trying to freak you out. We just want you to understand human energy feels really different. And so you can feel energetic imprints or pick up on people telepathically or mentally and emotionally. So empaths, right? He said like really empaths are people who kind of just need to have a little self-esteem boost about their own abilities. But essentially what ends up happening is you can pick up on this person's emotions and you can pick up on their energy. So even if someone's in a little bit of a higher frequency, they're still human, right? So there's a little bit more of a density. He's like, there might be a little bit more of an up and down to their feelings and their energy. But when you remain in that higher vibration and you're kind of like, you know, in that energy work, etc., what's going to happen is you can actually pull their energy upward. You can actually heal or work with them, work with their field a little bit more. And he said Reiki masters and energy workers do this stuff all the time. But they just don't always open up those mind channels to have that two-way connection, because that other person sometimes is going to get freaked out. And also sometimes people open up that door and they don't know how to close it. And then it gets really overwhelming. Like they're hearing a lot of people's thoughts and they're bubble, you know what I mean? He's like, it can get to be a lot. And I was like, yes, I know exactly what you mean. So you literally can do a door open, door close, or, they've taught me to do like put up some really firm walls and stuff like that. So it's not something that I like have struggles with anymore. And the times that I did, it was like, I don't know, an hour. Like it really wasn't like I was walking around all day like, oh my God, what do I do? It was like very short and sweet. And that's why I really advocate for people working with spirit and working with the other side, because they will teach you and they will help you, and you can call them in to help you with stuff like this if you're getting overwhelmed. And so now Erik's showing me when you work with spirit, there's a different lighter, brighter energy. And he said in spirit is also like, they're more conscientious and they're more aware of what's going on. So energetically, if you ask spirit to pull back, they will. If it's a human, they may not know how. So you're going to have to be the strong and dominant one. And we'll talk about more of this when I start to teach it in my groups and in the courses coming up. But there's essentially an energy that you can pull through from spirit where it feels lighter and brighter. It feels more shimmery. It feels sparkly. But for some people, you might need to practice like, you know, connecting in with someone that you feel safe with who's in spirit and feel like, what does that feel like for me? You know, practice with your own guides. You know, what does it feel like when I connect with my guides? What does it feel like when I have a loved one on the other side coming in? Or when I have my friend's grandmother who passed coming in, and then versus, you know, practice with a consenting friend. Practice not just reading their energy, but practice your telepathic connection with them. Practice doing in door open, door close, where you guys meet in a, you know, in between an astral space together, in a white room space together. And like I always talk about the white room, the white light room, meet in that third space, you know, and practice like sharing thoughts back and forth, and see if you can have those communications back and forth, and notice the difference. Notice how it feels. Notice what you pick up. Notice what you sense. Notice if you pick up any emotions, if you feel wired, if you feel overwhelmed, if you feel sad all of a sudden, because that will tell you, oh, I'm connecting with a human, right? This is a human's energy I picked up. And so Erik is saying that's exactly it. Like, it's very important that you guys are understanding though, that this is going to be much more prominent. And as we've said before, there will be far more children being born with these gifts and abilities in the future. We're already starting to see some of them, but there will be way more soon. And these kids are going to need us to have started to do a lot of the internal understanding and work to work with our own telepathic connection. And so like, think like the telepathy tapes, these kids are going to be very aware of what we're thinking and feeling. And he said, now, and they're not going to have to all be like nonverbal in order to do that. Now the other piece is, he's showing me how he said, you guys can practice also amongst each other, and you can use this ability to kind of like find people that you're meant to communicate with or connect with, people that like, let's say like you feel like, okay, I'm ready to open up to some new people on my path. I'm ready to figure out a little bit more about what I'm meant to do here, my calling, etc. You can actually kind of put a little bit of a call out there. And you can say, okay, like, hey, universe, or anyone that's open to this. And he said, you really got to get good at like, quieting your mind, going into meditation, doing your movement, breath work, grounding, etc. Because with telepathy, you really want to be grounded. It's really easy to pick up other people's emotions during it. And again, you want to be grounded and be able to, flip the switch on and off, or open the door, like open, shut, and have those strong internal boundaries. But he keeps saying you can actually put a call out there and see who answers that call. You can see, who is on that same frequency, who is on the same wavelength, who is looking to put together this idea. Because he said, you can always tell your team, your spirit team too, like, hey, who am I meant to sync up with? Who is going to help me on my path, and who am I meant to help? Because as I work with these people, as I connect to these people energetically and telepathically, and then as we find each other in person, bump into each other on the street, find each other online, get introduced by friends, whatever it is. He said, you guys are going to get stronger signals to find each other. Like you're not just going to like feel like synchronicities are happening, though that'll be part of it. He's like, you guys will actually be able to say like, okay, meet me here, or okay, let's try meeting over here, like Wednesday between this time and this time, like go to this coffee shop. And he said, and it's going to be a really unique experience. He keeps showing me people that are like meeting where they're like, should I say something to them about what I think is going on, or should I not? Should I tell them, or should we just like count this as like a really cool chance meeting? Like, and he said, it's going to take a while for people to get comfortable talking about this stuff, but it's going to be really important that people know that this is becoming more and more available. And now the other piece of it he's showing me is, he said he's showing me like a triangle, and it's like, so the bottom of the triangle is a human to human connecting, but then the top of the triangle is spiritual, like the spirit guides and the spiritual plane. And he said, we can help facilitate that connection and communication as well. And he is pointing to me. And he said, so Allie always tells us like, hey, whatever you guys know better than I do. So, like, better than what my conscious mind might always let in. So, what would be best and highest for me to be working on or to be experiencing. And that's when we helped her connect with, this person on earth that she's meant to meet with eventually, because they're going to help each other on each other's paths. And, it was crazy because even, when I asked my friend about this and I just said, oh, can they tell me more about what's been going on? She was like, oh my God, I've been picking up on this person for you when we've tuned in before. This is this person that we picked up on a couple of years ago, that this person's that you're going to help them with their work, and they're going to help you with your work. I was like, no way, shut up. And she goes, yeah, look at all the things they have in common. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even put this together. And the guides were like, yeah. And so we've been helping to facilitate this connection as well. And, what we found out is this person and I, who had the telepathic connection, they have a brother on the other side. And that brother has been helping with our connection as well. And that's not uncommon. I can't tell you how often I have had spirit come in and say, oh, you're going to meet my friend soon. Or, oh, my mom's going to come and talk to you. I need you to tell her that I'm okay. I need you to tell her that my death was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. They come in and they say like, hey, I'm bringing my mom to you. Hey, I'm bringing my dad to you. I'm bringing my friend to you for a reading. Like, usually for me, it's just for readings, but it's not uncommon for me to hear from the other side and hear about things like this. Sometimes it's like a chance meeting. Sometimes it's a reading. Sometimes it's like, parents, friends, etc. Their wife passed and their wife's like, eventually I'll want you to give them a message when it's time, when they're ready. And so, even if I didn't really know her. And so this stuff does happen like for mediums and psychics, but it happens for people who don't know that they're mediums and psychics, because I always believe we all are. And so spirit is kind of like that counterpoint. And so for many of you, if you start to have more and more of these connections, you can trust that your guides are trying to help you and support you with this. Now, I want to say too, it does take some time to fully understand what's going on, to understand what you're seeing, why you're seeing it, to understand what you're hearing and why you're hearing it, to really sort out, are you observing or are you part of the conversation? Some of this can take some time because in those higher dimensions, things can get a little bit like the lines in the boundaries can get a little blurry. So it is important that you are taking your time with this. Make sure you're taking things slow. Make sure that you are grounding, again, going for walks. And the guides keep saying, we're not telling you for our health, we're telling you for yours. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves. And things will begin to open up more and more from there. But for a lot of people, again, this is going to take some time, energy, and practice to really know how to use it and how to use it well and how to use it, in a really ethical way. Because again, this is an ability, it's a gift. It's not something we can use to try to manipulate or control each other, to coerce people, to, dominate or whatever. In those frequencies, it's going to be really difficult for that connection to happen. Okay, so you're not going to have to worry about that too much. In fact, if you're really intuitive and psychic and you're really open, and you're going to be able to sense if someone else has that intention right away. So you're going to be able to close that connection or exit that connection or relationship very quickly. I wanted to add another little layer to this about telepathy because I think that this is super cool. So with our telepathic communication and connection going in and out of time that I mentioned, something that's really, really cool is that you start to have these trippy experiences where you start to think, wait, was it the chicken or the egg? Did I or did this person do this thing in the past because I went back from this future time frame and told them keep going? Or or were they always going to do that and I'm just having the experience of observing them in their resiliency, keeping going. And it's such a weird experience to have. So for example, someone recently told me they were like, I swear to God, the alley that you are in 7 years came and gave me a message for you. And I was like, shut the fuck up. My future self came to you and gave a message. And they were like, yeah. And it was really spontaneous. And they said to tell you, there's some certain things I've been working on with my work. And there's been certain parts of my work that I've actually been shifting and kind of going, I think I need to kind of shift out of this and this in order to do that. And I won't say too much on it yet. I will share more about it in the coming months as I sort of master these things a little bit more that I'm working on. But essentially my future self came to my friend and said, tell my current self that in order to really do this, I have to let go of these other things. And that's why she's been getting these intuitions and these messages to let go of them. It's not just her guides, it's me from the future. Because I always believe our future selves, our highest selves and future selves are part of our guidance team as our future humans. So my friend was like, this is so trippy. This is just so weird. And it's the weirdest thing, having the epiphany of, you're in this time frame, but you go back in time and inspire yourself back in that time frame. And then you realize it's like a loop, it's like a full circle loop. And you're like, wait, so what came first, the chicken or the egg? And I try not to think about it too much. I'm just it happened because it was meant to happen. Kind of like in Harry Potter, the Prisoner of Azkaban one, where he's like, well, I was able to do the Patronus charm because I'd already done it. He realized he'd already done it in the past, but that was his past. He was seeing himself in the future able to do it. And he just didn't put it together before. It's kind of like that. It reminds me of the movie Arrival, which has been coming up a lot lately, where there's certain experiences she has where she's going forward in time, but in seeing things in the future. And so it's she already knows certain things. And there's communications that go back and forth where she communicates certain things to people. I don't want to give too many spoilers, but essentially, it's because she sees visions of the future and she knows what she's supposed to say. So then she says it in the present. I know it's trippy. But I had this epiphany because I was like, wait, did this person go and do this thing and keep going with their career and all their stuff and end up being really successful because they got this message from me and they thought I was an angel? Or were they going to do that anyways. But then to me, it was my 40-year-old like current self doing it. But back then I would have been a kid. So I'm just like, it can be pretty mind trippy. But it's really fun at the same time. I try not to overthink it too much, and so anyhow, it's just a really, really cool time period where we're having more and more of these types of experiences where we can telepathically connect to each other to support each other. And yeah, I just hope you guys are interested in these topics. If you are, please feel free to leave questions for us. You can use the link in the show notes or in my link tree to ask questions or share your stories to be featured on the podcast or to inform future episodes. You can also drop into my Patreon group and leave some of your, questions, stories, stuff like that in there. And we will definitely come back and do some more channeling on them. I do have some fun events coming up on Patreon and outside of Patreon for this week and for March. We have got a vision quest night with your guides, which will be a fun group experience. You guys can come and join. We're going to learn how to do some of this type of stuff where we're working with time and we're kind of tapping in and tuning in with our guides and future selves to inform our futures. I think it'll be really important to do this as we start this next year of the Fire Horse. And I think it's going to help a lot with people kind of setting up this next chapter. I know a lot of people have been like, where am I going? What do I need to be doing? Like you're kind of just going on vibes and feels right now. So we're going to do a little bit of vision questing, open up the energy for you to be able to contact that future self, get some guidance, see more of that potential future, and actually begin to walk in those shoes, and then break it down into intuitive steps and all of that good stuff. And we're also going to set some really fun intentions for, the larger energy of not just for highest and best for ourselves, but for all as well, and how we can feed into the whole and collaborate together. And then we are also going to have a group live readings night. Now, this is not like how I do it on TikTok Live. This will be much smaller group. We're going to do this all over Zoom or YouTube. And so I can read for each of you and call in your loved ones. It's just a live medium readings night, kind of gallery style. And so each person that comes can get readings with their loved ones. And we'll do that coming up in March as well. And that is something that you guys have to sign up for. Rather than, doing a private reading or a TikTok live reading with a bunch of people. That's going to be a small group readings night. So that'll be really fun. And then we have our energy workshop coming up this week. I hope you guys will have fun with that. That one's, I think just like such a fun, my guides were like, we have to do this. People are really struggling with the energy. I was like, okay, got it. This will be our February class for Patreon. So if you are in the Patreon groups, the channelers and change makers and ascend tiers get free access to that, or I guess it's included in their membership. So that'll be coming up this week. And then we have some really good channel messages coming up from people in the afterlife. And I've been doing more walk and talk bonus episodes of the podcast in Patreon. So come. Everything is available on my website as well. If you'd prefer to jump on there, you're welcome to sign up for classes there. If you don't want to do Patreon, podcast episodes end up on there as well. If you just scroll down on the homepage, there's a lot of really good stuff in there.